you ready for the truth? Bring it on!
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Do you want the whole truth?
I don't think you're ready.
Governments don't control things. A government can't control the economy without controlling people.
It's Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Here comes the truth.
Welcome back. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Appreciate your phone calls last hour. AFR Talk. Right now, I want to go right to our guest. It's an extraordinary opportunity that we have here. We are speaking with a man who will identify under an alias of Abu Yusuf. The reason we do this is because of the potential for reprisals. You see, Abu is an evangelical leader. He is the director, he has a evangelical missions ministry in Egypt. We welcome Abu. Welcome, Abu.
Thank you.
I wanted to, this interview I think is great because what we're going to do is kind of reset things. Some people are just learning of what's happening in Egypt, and I think we need to go for a little background here. So let's begin with the Arab Spring. What was the Arab Spring?
It's a term that is given to the riots or revolutionary waves or demonstrations or protests in the Arab world that started in December 2010 in Tunisia. And then it went from Tunisia to Egypt twice. It happened now, including this year, and then Libya, Yemen, and some happened in Bahrain, though there is no change in government, but also Syria has been for a couple of years. Some happened in Jordan, Kuwait, Morocco, Sudan. Different Arab countries had uprising or protests or revolutions. That's the term for Arab Spring. And as far as Egypt was, again, it's Mubarak. It happened in 2011 after he governed Egypt for about 30 years, and since 81 to 2011 when he was removed. But that term is used to refer to the people uprising against the government in their countries in the Arab world.
Okay, and so what we saw was an election, the democratic process. Ostensibly, the Egyptian people got what they wanted. So what happened on June 30th?
Well, let me say some things about the election of former President Morsi. His win was not a clean one. Probably many people don't know that in detail, but the people in Egypt have known that since the election took place over a year ago. The people ended up with, on the ballot, two choices. One is the old regime, a man from the old regime was Mubarak, or Morsi with the Muslim Brotherhood. And this election also, I have to note that it took place before writing the constitution of the country, because the other constitution we had was suspended. So it's legally is not really right to do that. You have to have the constitution, and then you have to have the parliament or the Majlis Shab, what they call, and then you elect the president. Also, the Muslim Brotherhood had what they call a rotating vote ballot, a paper that the same paper that printed for voting. They got it from the publishing house or somehow, and they give it to people coming into the place where they vote, and they give them half of a 20-pound bill or a 50-pound bill, and they tell them if this is marked for Morsi, if you bring the empty one from inside and you put this in, you will take the other half. And that happens so many places in Cairo and other cities. And also they bought the poor. They went around and gave meat, oil, sugar, and things for people who can't afford these things, and asked them to vote for Morsi. They turned the vote into a religious say yes to Morsi, President Morsi becomes the president, then you're saying yes to Islam for Egypt. And that kind of turned the whole vote to a religious vote.
Was there an implied threat? Pardon me, Abu.
They took it
was there?
And they did that.
Abu, was there an implied threat? Abu, was there an implied threat that if you did not vote for Morsi, that there would be reprisals?
Yes, or you're voting against Islam. You're not a real Muslim.
Okay.
So that puts people on the condemning side.
Okay. And so when we have what we have, Morsi gets in power, runs roughshod over the Constitution, assumes powers, implements Sharia law, and then we have what some have described as a coup, some have described it as a restoration of the democratic process. What would you call what took place?
Let me talk about what led to that event and how it started. After Morsi got in power, people said, well, let's give him a chance. But he declared, soon after he was in, declared a constitutional decree, as it looks like he's the head of the Supreme Court or something, and gave himself a lot of powers. And that's inflamed a lot of people and a lot of parties against him because he just basically gave himself powers that he should not have as a president. And also, he worked on a new constitution with majority of his own people and party and Islamists, and they cooked it quickly, and they came up with a constitution that other people did not accept or agree on. And then in the country itself, there was an economic disaster. There was nothing available for people to like food was shortage, bread, electricity. You've probably seen on the news the gasoline lines in Cairo where people couldn't find gasoline. After he left, immediately gasoline became available. I don't know what was with the. I think after we've seen the military destroying a lot of wells in Sinai, they were giving to Hamas through wells in Sinai, kind of underground, going to the other side. And Morsi was more concerned about Hamas and the people with Hamas than concerned about the Egyptians. And when you hear that as an Egyptian, it just inflames you. We consider him not our president because of what happened. Also on the streets, people can't go out safely. There was no security, no police keeping things safe, people getting kidnapped and paying ransom. Then he also went into the government, changed personnel in his government and putting more Muslim Brotherhood groups with him. And it looks like he was Islamizing, not just Islamizing, but turning the whole government into a Muslim Brotherhood group. And no improvement in Egypt during his year of governing. And he was not protecting even Egypt against terrorists. There were some soldiers while he was in were kidnapped, and he wouldn't let the military do anything against these people. He had meeting with them, and they're released, but there is a cooperation between that government and some terrorist groups. They have some way of talking together and supporting them because there are Muslim groups, and Muslim Brotherhood is a Muslim fanatic group. We know that since the years they have been established, and many presidents have banned them. They're not accepted as a legal organization. When Mubarak was in or before Mubarak, it's just Morsi showed his real face. He's the face of the Muslim Brotherhood group. And the news that made it worse is the news about Ethiopia building a dam on the River Nile, and which will cut our share of the water, and he did nothing, literally.
So he didn't protect his people.
So the Muslims,
he didn't protect...
moderate, and the Christians kind of got inflamed. The country is going to non-Egyptians, basically.
Okay. And so...
that led to a boiling society, and there was a group came around April 26th of 3 men, young men, a young lady, came up with an idea called Tamarrud, rebellion or rebel, and they had a piece of paper application basically saying, I want to remove President Morsi. And from April 26th until June 30th, they collected 22 million signatures and IDs from these people. And that, they called the people to come out, and millions of people came out. Some estimates between June 30th and July 3rd, was 33 million people came out on the streets of Egypt, Cairo, the main cities of Egypt, all over Egypt. The picture you see taken by airplanes or helicopters, it's amazing. That basically all of Egypt was saying, we don't want him back. And then the military intervened, because if they let these two groups fight, it would be a civil war. So the military went with the majority of the people who want to remove the president, because they warned him. They gave him a month before. They gave him a week. They gave him another 2 days before this happened. Make a solution. He never did. And so they ended up saying that we have to remove him and let the people have a plan to take the country to a more democratic way of living in Egypt. I hope this will explain. Yes. I know it's a long story, but it has a lot of details into it.
We certainly appreciate it, Abu. No, absolutely, and appreciate the detail. Now, so what we're getting is the military was imposing the will of the people after the people tried and tried to have Morsi hear their demands, their grievances, and adjust. And it was only a last effort was the military coming in and removing Morsi. Then the question becomes...
The military basically doing the people's will. Otherwise, if he left the two groups together, it would be a massive killing of each other.
Yes, and so we've seen a lot of attacks on Christians, 80 churches burned. Is the Muslim Brotherhood attempting to make this a Muslim-Christian divide?
Well, I think, the Christians in Egypt are about 12%, and some say 15% of the population, which is close to 90 million. And it's a large number, between 10 to 12 million people. And they know their effect. And by scaring them, and they know that they don't want Morsi, and their number is large, they want to scare them so they immigrate and leave the country and escape. So they destroy their churches and kill some of them. And they went... I have a list with me from a friend, and it's in Arabic, but it's from a friend in Egypt a few days even before now, and it had 40 names of churches and Christian places were burned or destroyed or looted. And the list now went to 84 throughout Egypt. Every city, every village, they attacked churches. And I have seen pictures or video from my own town where I used to live. They had the church burning some of their things and breaking doors and breaking everything inside. It just wanted to intimidate and put fear in the Christian community, so they escaped. And they want to turn Egypt to completely Islamic country, and then one whole Middle East to be Islamic country. The plan for the Muslim Brotherhood to have an Islamic United Arab States. That's the plan. They have now in Tunisia, they governing. In Libya, they governing. Even Turkey was not Arabic, but the party there is the Muslim Brotherhood. And they're working on it. They had it in Egypt for a year. They're working on it in other countries. They're trying to get in Syria. All of this fighting, behind it also the Muslim Brotherhood.
This is a part of a bigger
there and take that place.
Bigger plan. Question, and only because of time, because of we're up against. But what would you like the president, our president, Obama, to do, to say, and what should we Christians do? How can we help?
Unfortunately, the response of the American government was not great. It was disappointing to, of course, number one, to Christians, about 12 million people there, and also to moderate Muslims. They thought they will stand against terrorists. This organization is a terrorist organization. They have used weapons. They have used techniques and things that other organizations that use terrorism use it. They cooperate with other organizations. We have seen the flag of Al-Qaeda raised on some of the churches they burned. And I don't know how that can happen. How can America let Al-Qaeda work with that type of group? And if they expand in Egypt, the danger of them will be quite a bit more than it is now.
Should the president support the military?
We wish that America will stand with democracy, with making the government a secular government, not a religious one like we had before in Morsi. We want them to stand with democracy, real democracy, not fake one.
Does that mean supporting the military? Do they need to voice support and also back it up with funding?
Yes, not necessarily the military. The military supported the people of Egypt, and if they stand with the government that is placed now, temporary government, until there is an election, they're going to do it right. They're going to write the Constitution first, and then they're going to elect the House, and then they're going to elect the president, the third step. And there would be no religious parties allowed. They can form a non-religious parties, and they can enter, but they cannot be a part of the new government if they are running on a religious basis.
No religious parties, period.
Yes, that's the new plans that they have. They just finished a draft of the new Constitution, and they're going to have a 50-people committee that is from different aspects of the society, religious as well as different groups together to give their opinion in the forming of that new Constitution. And then they will have a vote for the populace to vote on it before implementing it. And that's the first step that the country needs. Something that we all agree on and accept as a majority.
Abu, it has been a privilege. It's been an honor to speak with you. I would like to have you back on the program where we could go in an extended segment. But what you are doing and what you have done is bringing the gospel to those in need, and especially also you're shining a light and giving us the truth of what is happening within Egypt, not only to Christians, but to the Egyptian people, moderate Muslims, secularists. It is absolutely a story that needs to get out there, and we appreciate you telling it. Thank you for taking the time, sir.
Thank you for giving me this chance, and I ask everyone that is here to pray for Egypt and the Christians there and God's work there. There is promises in Isaiah 19,
Amen.
21 and 25. Read them, and it's wonderful promises of God for Egypt.
Amen. Amen. AFR Talk.